Hi, everybody. So welcome to Reels and Heels. He'll be back. I don't know what happened. On this week's episode, we're going to talk about famous canines. So we're going to talk about puppies.
Yay, doggies.
Where are you? Where are you?
I'll be right there.
It's usually me that joins the broadcast late, so I don't know what to do. So,
what's your favorite dog TV show or movie?
There are so many of them, and I'm a sap. So if the dog is in any way, shape, or form homeless, hurt, or dies, I'm a mess.
Well, okay, yeah. Old Yeller, definitely a very sad movie at the end. One of my favorite movies, though, the original Homeward Bound.
The Incredible Journey.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorites. And then as far as cartoons was concerned, I was an All Dogs Go to Heaven girl. Like,
yes.
I watched the heck out of that movie for so long. And I cried every time. I was like, yes, all dogs go to heaven. And it makes me feel better. Because, by that time, we'd always had a dog. So many of our dogs were hopefully in heaven. I hope. I'm sure they were because they were good dogs. But it was just, I don't know. Most of my life has been framed by dog movies, I suppose.
Oh, so Lassie, there's Rin Tin Tin.
Yep.
And of course, Canada had our own version of Lassie called Littlest Hobo.
Oh, that's so cute. We had Benji too. Like, I think Benji was like our time period. And then of course, like they did the remake of Homeward Bound. I think that was when we were still kids.
Yeah.
With Michael J. Fox.
Sally Field
as Chance, and Sally Field as Sassy. Yeah. I don't remember who Shadow was. I cannot remember the actor's name.
It was an older actor.
Peter, was it Peter Fonda? I don't know why Peter is in my head, but I'm not 100% sure, but we'll have to look it up at some point.
I'll look that up. But yeah, the original, of course, was called Incredible Journey.
Yeah.
And then Homeward Bound.
Homeward Bound became, I don't know, was that the second one? I don't remember.
That's the name of
the Incredible Journey Homeward Bound.
Yeah.
Right?
And then they made the sequel to the remake, Lost in San Francisco.
I read the book. The book tore me up. I also read Sounder. I don't know if they ever made Sounder into a movie, but that one was good too.
1993. So we were like,
I was like 13. I was still rather impressionable.
It was still like one of those very emotional movies, but thank you, Kyle.
Don Amici? Don. I'm not 100% sure.
Amici. I believe that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah, he was a major radio star in the early 30s.
Okay, and then that's why, because his voice was very, very fatherly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if that makes sense.
Oh, he was in Cocoon. Oh, okay.
Okay. I didn't. All right, well, that kind of makes a little bit more sense because I don't remember his face, but I know his voice. So that's probably why. But
Dante's
gosh,
Inferno.
he was in everything. Wow, he was huge in the 30s.
Three Musketeers.
So
yeah,
I don't know.
Well, that one definitely was a good one. A lot of like animated stuff too.
What was your favorite, Willow?
Oh, out of the cartoon movies?
Well, either one.
Well, All Dogs Go to Heaven was definitely a really good one. You know, they tried doing a sequel of that movie and it wasn't as good, but no, you know what? I think
I was gonna say that first film, the dynamic between Burt Reynolds and Dom DeLuise.
I think it sold the movie really, really well. I think like
I mean, because they've worked together with Cannonball Run, so
well, and they were like staples of the 80s too. So I think it was really probably because we were growing up watching the movies. We probably, you know, when we heard it in a cartoon, it was that much more.
Yeah.
Although I'm sure we weren't supposed to watch the movies that they were in. Probably not when we were 7.
You know what? I really, at that time, I don't think it really mattered what, like, parents taking kids to movies. I don't think it really mattered at that time. Now it's like people are like, "Oh, what's the rating on this? I can't take my kids to see any violent movies." And I'm just like, the first movie that I remember watching in theaters was Basic Instinct.
Oh my god. That movie was later, a little bit later for me, but I was, I don't know, how old was I when that movie came out? I don't even know, but I definitely didn't see it in the theaters. But I don't know, both of the kids have watched. I mean, they've watched stuff, and it's never been a thing.
But there's like thinking back, like when it comes to like the Canine movies, though. I mean, like we've had Old Yeller, and you know, that movie will always be one of those most emotional movies to date.
The book too, like that's just a classic book. That's a book that's still popular today.
Well, and I think that it was also one of Disney's first live action movies back in the 50s,
60s maybe.
I'm not 100% sure.
Old Yeller.
So, because my mom remembers watching it because it was right around the same time as My Friend Flicka and
1957.
Like that. So, like, and I remember it was in color, but it was that really rustic color. So I think it was probably in black and white before it was in color. But it was really one of those like turning point movies. And then, I mean, we've got a lot of really awesome comments in here. So, geez, Greg knew who that Don Amici was. We didn't have the comments on. We're paying attention.
So, are we talking about like right now? You know, what was kind of like our favorites?
Yeah.
Being an '80s baby, I'd have to say the Tom Hanks movie Turner and Hooch.
Oh my God, yes.
I love that movie. I love that movie so much.
But also, I thought Canine with Jim Belushi. Jim Belushi was another good one.
I enjoyed all of the Benji movies a lot.
Benji, yes.
But lots of people had brought up the idea of horror movies, and so like when we were talking about Cujo and
well, there's Man's Best Friend.
Man's Best Friend, and so when you think about, like, I was thinking about that as like, you know, we kind of felt bad for Cujo. Like, he wasn't really the villain. He wasn't, you know, he wasn't the villain. He couldn't help what happened to him, and he couldn't help for why he was that way. So it just kind of
the fact that they portrayed like a Saint Bernard dog as like the most vicious dog, and like Saint Bernards are like the most friendliest dog. And in one of my foster homes, we had a Saint Bernard, and he was like the kindest thing ever. He farted a lot, but
the biggest, cuddliest, like, you know, but like he was a villain, but he wasn't really a villain. You know, it was like he didn't know what was happening to him.
He was scared.
Because that's what rabies does. It drives you crazy and makes you nuts. But I never saw Man's Best Friend because I'm one of those people. Like, I'm a dog lover. So if it had a dog in it, I was a little freaked out. Although I do like werewolf movies, which does make a lot of sense, I guess. But
well, he was a science project. It was a dog. Like, oh, there's Jerome. He said
there's Jerome.
He had to go get his phone fixed.
Hi.
Hey, Jerome.
Hey, bye.
Willow, Nicole, how are you two ladies?
Good.
Hey, look
How
at
are you?
you're in a different setting.
Hey, he's in a different spot.
I am, because we had to move the child out of her room for school because she couldn't concentrate and she was constantly playing with toys during class.
Oh.
And she skipped a class.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, she's already learning how to skip class.
Too
at
young.
age 7. Yeah, so we had to move to the kitchen. So, but we have a new phone.
Yay.
You know, kind of pricey, but pretty. The other one last night was so hot I was worried it was going to explode. Yeah.
That's kind of
wow.
scary.
Yeah. So that's why it was a since I live and die by my phone nowadays, I needed a new one. So
Yeah.
So Willow, I hear you got new stuff, new technology.
Look
I'm
at
no
how
longer-
pretty it is.
Wait a minute. What's that? What's that? I got Willow, I got to stare at your chest for a second here. What's it say? Is that a
Fly
Supergirl?
girl. Yes, it is.
My wife's name is Kara.
Okay.
So we got lots of we have art from like I got a George Perez piece that of Supergirl.
I love George Perez.
Oh, you and I got to talk later. Okay, I got stories. I was his handler at a convention.
Okay.
Oh wow!
Oh.
You probably got
Anyway.
stories.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, guys, I've been doing comics since the '60s, and I've been going to shows since '82. So you know, I do have stories.
I'm sure you do. Like
All right.
when Comic Cons were Comic Cons, not pop
Yes.
culture cons.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when Comic Cons didn't exist. You know?
Yeah, they were in like a library at the basement, and
Or when comic book stores didn't exist either. You got them off the rack at the local store.
Yeah.
that's so weird.
At your pharmacy and stuff.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. My whole life, there's been a comic book store, so I don't know.
Oh,
It would
you
be-
young
would've been weird.
whippersnappers.
So to catch you up, Jerome, everybody was just kind of talking about like their favorite dog movies or TV shows growing up, and so we were just talking about like how even in the horror genre with like Cujo, and then there was a movie in the 90s called Man's Best Friend.
Yep, I know that one too.
Which in
Big chicken.
and
right
Man's
here.
Best Friend, the lead actor was from Alien, Lance. I can never pronounce his last name.
Yeah, I know who you mean. I know who you mean.
Herkinson, I think is
Yeah,
how
he
you
was
say
in
his last name.
he was also in the show Millennium.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he was also in the vampire film Near Dark.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Wasn't Bill Paxton in that also, Near Dark?
Yeah.
Yeah, Bill Paxton was
No,
in
he
Near
was
Dark.
also in the Aliens film.
Yeah. So what dog film or TV show is your favorite?
Well, when I was a kid, this goes back to the 60s and the 70s. In the 60s, it was lots of reruns of the black and white version of Lassie. You know, little Timmy's caught in the well, you know.
Yeah.
So, little Timmy's caught in the well. Okay, let's cover up the well, you know. So there was that, and then there were two really big critters in the 70s, okay? One was Benji. I don't know how many of you remember Benji.
I remember
Yeah.
Benji.
Small, ugly little dog that I wanted to drop kick across the town, okay? I mean, it was just so too much cuteness for anyone to like. I mean, really, you couldn't help but fall in love, and then after a while, you grew to hate that damn dog. And then there was my personal favorite was Morris the cat, and I'm not a cat person. And basically, he was this arrogant, almost Garfield-like cat and it was a cat food commercial. and he was super popular in the 70s. And think of Grumpy Cat with more of an attitude.
Yeah.
Okay. So those are the ones that I grew up with. There were, I mean, you had the incredible Journey dogs and cat that did that.
Then you had Ren Tin Tin, right?
Yep.
Rin Tin Tin was in the 1950s and didn't do a lot of syndicated reruns in the 60s and 70s for some reason. And I think it had to do with the fact that it was an army dog, a German Shepherd.
And it's surprising because it had 160 episodes in the show.
Mm-hmm. Well,
so
consider also the time, though. The 60s and the 70s, anything with the military, other than shows like Hogan's Heroes and MASH, were really looked down upon because of Vietnam and what was going on with that. So, if you're a network, you really don't want to risk alienating a major part of audiences.
Yeah. True.
There were two movies that got a lot of attention in the mid-70s called The Amazing Dobermans. And basically is they were these about 5 or 6 Doberman pinchers that were trained to rob banks. Now think about that for a moment. Okay.
Trained to rob banks.
Cool.
Okay, hold on. Let me write this down. Where can I find these animals?
I have no idea. I haven't seen them in ages. Hang on a second. Let me just see if I can find them real quick. But yeah, that was some of those things. Let me a second here. I can't spell this morning. It's been a busy morning. And then The Amazing Dobermans, a 1976 film. Okay. It's on Wikipedia. Let's see here. It was a trilogy. All right, there was a trilogy of films. I only saw 2 of them. There was the Doberman Gang in 72, the Daring Dobermans in 73, and the Amazing Dobermans in 76.
Huh.
Yeah. Okay. Now those the 72, 73 ones, those actually got a lot of press in my elementary and junior high school. We all loved those because having dogs rob banks is really cool.
All right. So everyone in the chat, if you need some money, buy a Doberman, and you can easily train them to rob banks.
It took some serious planning on that, though.
Wow. Yeah.
But the beauty of that is, the beauty of having the dogs rob the banks is that you can't get identified.
Unless somebody sees you with the dogs, right?
Well, that's true. But the dogs usually were out in the California desert. Was the rendezvous.
So I could just see now when the detectives are interviewing people. Yeah, did you see the what they look like? Yeah, they were like black and brown, and they had
about knee high, pointy ears.
So there was that. In 78, 79, there was Muffy. Now, how many of you know Muffy?
Muffy
was the dog on Battlestar Galactica.
Yes.
Okay.
The Daggett was originally a dog, got killed in the pilot film. Then they made a robot version of him, which was actually a monkey in the suit, and the monkey hated the outfit.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Okay, so those are some of the critters from my childhood.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure this is from your childhood too. Well, hold on. Yeah, Garfield was created.
Garfield showed up. Garfield showed up really became popular in the early 80s. Okay, and
Garfield.
The original voice of Garfield was the guy who played the doorman, and you never saw him. You know how who's the guy on Home Improvement whose face you never see? Wilson. Well, they had a character similar, only he talked through their door intercom. That he was Carlton the doorman was the guy who played Garfield, and so nobody ever got to see the guy who did the voice acting of that, and that was back in the yeah. Now, also, if you're going to talk cartoon stuff, you had.
Well, I was going to say, Garfield's friend was
Odie.
Odie.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Who was
gave Odie such a hard time.
Mm-hmm. And who was the cute kitten?
Normal.
Normal.
Nermal. Very good. Now,
Garfield used to like kind of kick her around too because she was annoying.
oh no, because she was too cute. Nobody should be that cute, is what his whole idea was. Okay, wait a minute. So Garfield got real popular. There were like, and basically with toys everywhere, including toys that stuffies that were stuck to car windows.
Yeah.
Okay. And people were stealing those, by the way, just so you know that. People were breaking in. The only thing stolen was the Garfield stuffy. Yeah, I know. Weird. The world is full of weird people. So cartoon-wise, though, and I'd have to bring this up on my show later on. So they had Garfield, and Garfield would do sometimes primetime movies or whatever. Then you'd also get the primetime show, the Saturday morning cartoon and all that. But there was a competitor cat out there called Heathcliff.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, and that was, and Heathcliff had his own strip also. Well, the dogs couldn't be outdone. I mean, them's a fighting words. So there was Marmaduke.
Marmaduke, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I love Marmaduke.
Which
Now,
they turned into a live action film. I think like in 2013 or something
really,
like that.
I didn't see it, but Marmaduke was based off of a Disney film, is what I read. Now, I don't know how true that is. There was a Disney film called the Outrageous Dachshund or something like that, where basically what happened was the runt of a Great Dane litter was transferred to a Dachshund's litter so that it would live. And for some reason, this Great Dane kept thinking he was a Dachshund.
Yeah, because like Disney's go-to actor at that time was Dean Jones. Was Dean Jones in that?
That's what I got to check here. Hang on a second here. I didn't have time to prep for the show today, so
that's all right. Because Dean Jones was like in Herbie. He was in. He was in all those movies.
Yeah, that's what I'm checking now. Astro was a Great Dane. Dynamite, Elmer, Bat Hound. Let's see here. Mascots, military film. Here we go. Oliver. Nope, I got to look it up here. Hang on a second here. Yeah, it's like I said. I had to. You got me this morning after I was doing things here, so I haven't had a chance to do a whole lot of.
Scooby-Doo was a great name too.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
All right, I can't find it, but yeah, I think it was a Dean Jones film, but I'd have to check. So.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Dean Jones, he did the Shaggy DA.
Yes, he did. He was also, I think, in the original black and white Shaggy Dog.
Yes.
Okay, which was a sheepdog. Let me just look that up real quick here.
Yeah. Which in the 90s was remade by Tim Allen.
Yes, it was.
And I thought that was a decent remake. I thought it was.
I liked that one, but I was a huge fan of the first one anyway. It's like when I was a kid, I would sit and watch it.
I mean, Tim Allen though was like he was the guy.
Yeah, well, in that time period, yeah.
Right.
You know, it's really sad. Like when I was a kid, I watched all these movies. It's like I surely didn't have a life back then, and the TV must have been my babysitter because seriously, I watched so much. My mom gives me a hard time now about it too. She's like, "You didn't watch that much TV." I'm like, "Clearly, I did."
In the 90s, there was also a TV show of the same style as a man becoming a dog. It was around the same time as Wishbone, and I cannot remember for the life of me what the name of that show was. But
well, I got one for you that was really horrible. Okay. Friday nights was usually where networks would have to fill something, but it was the trash they would throw there. Okay, because the belief was even the nerds went out on Friday night. That's why Star Trek got moved to Friday nights on 10 o'clock. Was that thinking we got to find a reason to cancel it? There was a TV show called Manimal, where this guy could turn into a different animal. And he fought crime.
Yeah.
It was horrid.
Yeah.
It was horrid.
There's actually a lot of memes of Manimal.
I never saw it. But speaking of Friday nights, like when we were growing up, Friday night TGIF was Comet on Full House.
Okay.
So like Comet was was a secondary character, but he spent a lot of time following Michelle around, and a lot of time.
And every time like they were like doing something that they shouldn't be doing, they would like pan the camera to him, and like if he was human, he'd be like, they're not gonna do that, are they?
It's like, what's wrong with these people? Like,
same thing with Married with Children. They had
Yeah.
I
know
was
what you're talking about. Yeah. And they killed him off.
he was a real shaggy,
Yeah.
shaggy dog too.
They killed him off too. And then they brought him back
Buck.
in reincarnation.
His name was
Buck.
Buck.
Yes. Yeah, Buck. And he was a mutt also, but they killed him off. And then in that same episode, they had him reincarnated as the new dog of that family. He was going, "I'm being punished."
Which, if you really think about it, I could see how that would be punishment.
Okay,
because the dog really was the smartest thing in the entire house.
Yeah, he was. He was indeed. What was the most famous cat of the 1990s?
Famous cat of the 1990s.
Famous cat.
God, in the 1990s, I don't know.
Big TV show. Think witches.
Salem.
Salem.
Oh, Derp. Yeah.
Okay.
I watched every episode of that show.
And let's be honest, Salem was the real reason people watched that show. You know,
dude,
because he was snarky and he was mean, and
he always had a scam going. You know?
Yeah.
He was always trying to take over the world. You know. So yeah, there's actually on YouTube. There's actually a series of collections for each season of Salem. Just the
Salem parts.
Just the Salem parts.
I love it.
You know, and what's funny is when they redid the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina on Netflix, they didn't make Salem like he was in the show. They basically split him into two. The guy that lives with them is the human version of what Salem did, you know, trying to take over the world. And Salem the cat is actually her familiar, which is some demon that, you know, basically took the cat form as her familiar, and only she can talk to it, which I think, you know, they missed out on so much fun they could do.
I'm sorry, I cannot watch that show. The acting is freaking terrible.
Yeah, but there's some serious eye candy.
Wait,
I do like the Netflix show. I think probably the best actor in the whole damn show is the brother or uncle or whoever it is.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's probably the best actor, and he's playing the zaniest character on the thing. But like the girls at the school and stuff, I think that's they're a little trite.
I like the ants. The fact that one ant is always killing the other one. You know, it's very, very Cain and Abel. You know.
Well, and it's very much like the original too, really, because they would always kind of like fight with each other. They just try to kill each other, but
for me, it's you have a bunch of dramatic actors trying to upstage each other, and to me, it feels like watching a high school play with a bunch of shitty actors.
Yeah, I understand. Sorry, new phone.
Not the worst thing that's come out of remakes.
There have been some bad ones, but okay. Here's another one. Who's the most famous critter of them all? Okay, there's two of them. That one has a song after it. Okay, and then there's another one that got a lunar module named after it.
Well, the critter.
I gave you the hint for the first one with the song, and when I asked you the question.
Well, there's a couple that are coming to my mind. I mean, one. I mean, it's not. It's actually the most popular IP, just not the biggest moneymaker, and that's Winnie the Pooh.
Winnie the Pooh is popular, but there's two other things here in the States that are even more popular. Now, you've sung this song at Christmas time.
Oh, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
There you go. Rudolph is incredibly popular. Think about how long that's been around. Okay.
Yeah,
Think about
19.
And you watch that stupid wooden puppet animation every year, don't you? Okay. Okay. Now the other one is a dog that lives on top of his doghouse.
Snoopy.
Snoopy.
I love
Snoopy got a lunar module named after him.
That's
Okay.
right.
Okay, Apollo 9 was, it's either 9 or 10, was the lunar module was Snoopy, and the command module was Charlie Brown.
Yeah.
And how many specials have we all grown up watching, especially the Christmas special?
Well, and how many of them do we wait all year to watch?
Not me. I've
'Cause
got,
I'm
them
like-
I've got them on DVD.
I do. I have them on DVD too, but I still watch it on TV every year because it's just
Well, we always watch the Thanksgiving one, the Halloween one, and then the Christmas one. But I also love the one where they go camping and they're like, what's the name of that one? I can't remember the name. But they're like doing the canoe races.
Yeah.
Down the,
I can't remember the name of it either, but
then
my favorite one is the Great Pumpkin. I will always, because Halloween is my favorite holiday, Nicole, and I love October.
Did Willow and Nicole and Brian, did you guys not see the pictures I posted on my Facebook page of my daughter and my wife going and picking up pumpkins for the pumpkin patch at my house?
No. I hadn't seen anything.
Oh, you need to go back and look at my pictures.
Well, we live in Florida, so like the kids, every time they see pumpkins at the grocery store or whatever, and they're like, "Mom, can we go to Harvest Holler and pick out our pumpkins?" And I'm like, "No, not until like the Tuesday before Halloween, because they'll be rotten before."
Well, that's half the fun.
You know? Not if they rot before Halloween, like.
Oh, absolutely! You cut the jack-o'-lantern. You get the throwaway little light that flickers like a candle inside, and as it rots, it gets more and more disgusting with the lights in it, and it's horrifying, and it's perfect for Halloween.
And then when you go to pick it up, it liquefies in your hand.
No. You're in Florida, so you don't know this one. You get out your snow shovel and just scoop it up and toss it away.
Okay, we're in Florida, so we don't have a snow shovel. That's a problem.
Then you get something, flat, like, whatever. But,
Well, so maybe drone is going to be like what Garrett did with them. We're going to find that we're going to have a snow shovel mailed to us.
I'll see what I can do for you.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Well,
here's your pumpkin picker-upper.
You know this trick. You're in Canada.
All too well.
Snow shovels are wonderful things, I used to live in Labrador, Canada, so
Well, for 25 years, Nicole knew exactly what that meant.
Oh yeah.
What were you going to say?
My sister moved to Vancouver a couple years ago, and when she moved to Vancouver, she's like, she wrote on her page, she goes, "Does anybody have a shovel that I can borrow?" I'm like, so wait a minute, you moved to a different province and you completely forget that we get winter?
Did anybody mention to her that she could drive down to the local hardware store and buy a shovel?
I always laugh when my kids are like, "Miss, it's so cold outside." I'm like, "It's 62.
Oh, please.
It's so cold." I'm like, "Has the snot in your nose frozen yet? Because until it has, you don't know what cold is."
It was
snot in your nose can freeze?
It was 46 degrees this morning going outside, and I was outside in my bare feet. Okay.
That's nothing. Like that's shorts weather in Michigan.
Oh yeah. I go out in my bare feet in the snow. Okay. I blame people like Willow and the years that I lived in Canada who caused me to do that. But okay, here's another animal. Okay. Set the way back to the 1930s and 40s. There were two popular cereals that had two popular horses in them.
Oh.
The one would be the Lone Ranger.
The Lone Ranger, and what was the horse?
Silver.
Willow wins that one. And what was the other one? There was another horse.
Why am I thinking
My friend Flicka.
Ed the horse.
No. Well, I
Ed,
was,
Mr. Ed.
was the 1950s. That was Mr. Ed.
Okay, Mr. Ed, right.
My Friend Flicka. Oh no, that was
Nope,
the
that was
50s
the
too, wasn't it?
60s.
60s. Okay. God.
There's actually
The
two,
Lone
but
Ranger.
I'm thinking of the Western one. Now, here's a hint: the horse died, and the owner had him stuffed.
Oh my God! This. I can't think of it. I can't.
let's see if anybody in the chat knows.
Yeah, I'm not even seeing anything in the chat. Oh, that's why I'm on the wrong chat. Exactly, I felt. Wow, Greg lived in Michigan. I'm sorry to hear that. Okay, all right.
Can't be all that bad. I was made in Michigan, so.
I was made in Western New York, so you know. All right, the answer is Trigger.
Oh, okay.
That's
Roy
right.
Rogers. Okay.
Yeah.
Now I would have let you go by with Black Beauty and the Elizabeth Taylor film. I mean, not Black Beauty. That was Elizabeth Taylor. That was that was National Velvet, and that was a popular one.
I didn't even.
Okay.
Well, so there was also another book that was turned into a film, Black Stallion.
Black Stallion also.
Yeah.
Yep. A lot of horse films and movies because horses are somewhat easy to train compared to dogs and cats. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and I think because of a lot of the things that were transitioning in the 50s too, like horses were still a mainstay in Hollywood. Like they were a lot easier to keep.
Well, in the 1950s,
and they lasted a lot longer.
Yeah, in the 1950s, you were still doing westerns on TV.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Gunsmoke, Wild Wild West, Rawhide,
right?
You know,
Bonanza,
like that. Bonanza, Big Valley. You know,
so
I gotta say, if we're talking about horses, my favorite movie has to do horses are part of it. Is The Man from Snowy River.
Yep, there you go. Yeah. What's the one they just did with the guy from Lord of the Rings about the race in the desert? Hidalgo.
Oh yeah.
Hidalgo, yeah.
I love that movie.
And Viggo Mortensen, who was the lead in that, bought the horse from the people, and he now owns Hidalgo, the horse that he used.
That's awesome.
Secretariat was also a good movie.
Oh, that's nothing compared to. Go watch that last race in for real on YouTube. That's an amazing last race. 23 lengths.
Yeah.
Like
what did you think of the Tobey Maguire Seabiscuit movie?
That was cute. I liked it.
I had no problem with it. I read the book before I'd seen the movie because I'd been given the book on tape as a gift for something I did at Barnes & Noble. I think there was a lot missing, but you can't really get into some of the stuff that they deal with. They didn't really in the movie get into the fact that Seabiscuit was kind of a lame horse. The way he moved, his front hoof kind of, instead of going forward and back, his hoof had to go around because of a damage to the shoulder. And that's why people thought he couldn't run. And he was a West Coast horse, so he couldn't make it to the Triple Crown race.
Yeah. Since we're on horses right now, I need to bring this comment up. The Steven Spielberg movie, War Horse.
I haven't seen that one, I'll be honest. My wife said it was pretty good.
I mean, it's Spielberg.
But you got to remember, though, horses were originally designed as part of war, like like in that movie. Mm-hmm. We used them as the 7th Cavalry in the Old West, and got destroyed at Little Bighorn. The only survivor on the American side was a horse. Okay, they made a movie about it. You had cavalry charges at things like Waterloo. They talked about them. Look at Ben-Hur. And the use of horses and how the horses were destroyed in a lot of these things. They were weapons of war. They were transportation. You took care of them, but people didn't look at them as anything more than just, say, like your car.
Right.
You know? Occasionally you'd hear people say, oh, I love this horse or whatever. But in most cases, the people were like, yeah, I'll sell you that horse for X number of dollars. I'll buy that one over there.
Yeah.
And that was the thing about horses. They were a tool for all intents and purposes.
Right.
Now, here's an interesting thing that I remember from my history, from my high school histories. Horses are not native to North America. Okay, the wild horses you see are descended from the conquistadors. See, the conquistadors brought the horses to the Americas to look for the fountain of youth, the seven cities of gold, destroy the Aztecs and the Mayans. Guess what? Some of those guys died, and their horses ran free along with other horses that were brought over. And lo and behold, one male, one people eat Italian meat, buy each other drinks, and things happen, and you get lots of little
Yeah.
horses.
Yeah.
And that's how you get wild horses here in the States.
It's funny though that a lot of times most people don't realize that a lot of the animals that we have as pets never started as pets,
Right.
and that they didn't start even here.
Yes.
Because dogs are the same way. That when people were looking at the genetics of dogs, that they had found that there were two different groups of wolves. One that stayed in Europe, and then one that crossed the land bridge from Europe to the Americas. So all of North America.
So most of the animals that are here, though, are not really native to here at all in general, right?
Right.
But like those dogs that came over here genetically, they were wolves, but the wolves that came over here are genetically similar. There's no genetic difference between the two. It's just that some wolves moved closer to humans because they understood how it was easier.
Well, if you watched the last series, not this current season, but the last season of Cosmos with Neil deGrasse Tyson, he talks about the domestication of wolves. And basically it came down to, you know what? If I go to these humans and take care of them, they're going to feed me, which makes my life a whole hell of a lot easier than trying to hunt. And
humans realized that it was necessary to have something on their side that could protect them from what was out in the dark.
Well, this is funny.
It was much, much worse than wolves.
This is when we can talk about White Fang.
There you go.
But Alpha, it was a relatively new movie called Alpha, was a movie about a boy who was separated from his tribe when he was attacked by a buffalo. Yeah. And he has to reset his leg, and he goes through this arduous journey to get back home. And the wolf, first he is going to kill the wolf, but then realizes that if he can save it, and they can go easier together. Okay. And so they both kind of rehabilitate each other. And that's kind of where that's the story of the origin of this bond that we have with dogs. I think that's a huge part of our lives, and the transition of how close we were to animals and our protection. Because yes, we were afraid of other people out in the, when we were living as tribal nomads and stuff, but it was really what was out there in the dark. There were things much worse than a wolf. And if you had a wolf on your side, chances are you would fare better.
The worst things than a wolf out in the dark is another human. Okay. You think about it. Okay.
Yeah.
But the beauty of that is, there are tons of dogs and wolf stories out there. Jack Wilde's Call of the Wild. Jack
London.
Thank you. They did that. There was White Fang, and he did another number of books like that. Mm-hmm. What's the dog that did the? There's a statue. There's a statue.
Well, I was going to say the other movie that was a book was Iron Will.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. But there's a statue of this dog in New York City in Central Park. Basically, he was the lead dog in a dog sled that got some medicine to a town. This is where the Iditarod race came from. Balto. There you go. Balto. So we got critters all over our culture. Back in the 70s, there was a cop show called Beretta. Mm-hmm. And people went out and bought cockatoos because the cockatoo was the pet of Beretta's pet. Little did they know that cockatoos have a tendency to poop anywhere they want to. They're loud, they're noisy. You know, a lot of cockatoos were let free out in California. Okay, and
Yeah. I'm not a bird fan. I really don't like birds.
well, birds were very and there's a bird that's stuffed in the London War Museum and was given the Victorian Cross. Was messenger pigeons.
Yep.
Oh, interesting.
Okay, you get a little piece of paper about that long. You write something in code, wrap it up with its leg, and you'd let it go, and it would fly back to its home in London.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Pigeons are very smart. A lot of people don't realize that.
Oh, birds are hugely smart.
Pigeons and crows, because they just did a study on crows that said that crows actually can remember faces.
Yes. Here's the thing, though, is that I don't know if any of you three have been to London. Okay, in Trafalgar Square, tons and tons of pigeons. You know, you're not supposed to feed them, but there's vendors around with bird seeds, so you can feed the pigeons, and they'll stand on you. And you really don't want them to let the pigeons stand on you because they will poop on you. Okay,
Yeah.
But pigeons had congregated in different areas of London, and thanks to the poop of pigeons, that creates potassium nitrate, and potassium nitrate is an ingredient of gunpowder. And without that potassium nitrate, England could not have made gunpowder for their ships and beat the things like the Armada and the Nelson's armies and all that. So again, birds, animals came to be important to our society.
Well, there we go. We just got a history lesson from Jerome Connor.
Well, Jerome Connor loves the Age of Sail, so
When I was in Italy, we went to St. Mark's Basilica, and the pigeons in St. Mark's are the same way. That you're really not supposed to, because pigeons are considered in Italy very dirty birds, and because they eat anything, and you're really not supposed to feed them, but like. Tourists go there and they let the pigeons, like there's pictures of me where the pigeons are landing all over the place, and we're feeding them because we're tourists, and that's what we do.
Well, I mean, the Vatican, right there. I mean,
Well, I didn't go to Rome, but we were in St. Mark's Basilica. But I think that we don't realize how important animals are and how they reflect on our lives, just in general.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, so here's another one. Okay. So we all know about coal mines. Okay.
Yeah.
And, people didn't understand about the air quality and all that. So they would take little canaries in little tiny cages down into the coal mine. And if that damn bird fell over dead, people would run out of that mine faster than you could shake a stick. And and for years, and they kept doing that right up until the 1980s. People would still bring canaries down there into coal mines.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you talk about that, but if we get back to the media side of it, things like TVs and shows, I mean, to this day, we still have shows with animals and movies, like you were saying, like War Horse and all that.
Yeah.
The horror side, I don't know how much, I mean, we all know Cujo, but I don't know what other horrors, I mean, Pet Sematary was pretty scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, another Stephen King one. I think that man needs some serious psychiatric help, But what other critters were there in horror?
When Brian was talking about the man's best friend dog.
Yeah, which was a Rottweiler.
Which makes sense, but at the same time I think that was right around the time that I gave Rottweilers a bad name too. But it always seems to be the big dogs, like
same thing with Resident Evil. Like they had like the Dobermans.
Yeah.
Zombie Dobermans.
So it was like somebody in the chat, they were talking about the Beast from the Sandlot and Chomper from no, it was Chopper. Was it Chopper or Chomper? From Stand By Me?
Yeah.
Which you never saw the dog.
Yeah.
You heard the dog. Well, okay. Well, in Stand By Me, you did see the dog because the dog tried to chase him over the fence. And I've seen that movie 800 times probably. but in the Beast in the Sandlot, you only ever saw him like
Didn't you ever
only
see
saw
like
his shadow.
his mouth, with the teeth?
You didn't see his mouth. You saw the shadow.
Yeah,
Okay.
until they went over
they went over the fence to get the ball, and then they were like, "This really isn't all that big of a dog," and he was actually not that mean.
He just wanted to kiss him.
I want to see a horror movie where the horrible, scary dog is a Chihuahua. Okay,
I'm sure it exists.
Because to me, the Chihuahuas, those little, the purse dogs, like what Paris Hilton used to have.
Yeah.
Those dogs are scarier because they're harder to hit. Okay, the
They're
big dogs
mean,
targets.
too.
They are.
All right, so if there's any producers from Asylum, you guys make the Sharknado movies and all that.
Make a killer Chihuahua movie.
A killer Chihuahua movie.
Mm-hmm.
No, that wouldn't be scary, right?
Well, no,
Yes, I remember. He says what he said was Chopper get him, but what I heard was Chopper stick ball.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love that movie. To this day, it is probably one of my favorites.
So when we were talking about older stuff, I can't believe Jerome didn't bring this up. Petey from the Little Rascals.
Petey from the Little Rascals.
Petey from the Little Rascals was a Rottweiler, and
no, he was a pit bull.
You're right, he was a pit bull. That's right. But pit bulls and Rottweilers in Hollywood back in the day were sort of interchangeable.
Yeah.
Or,
which is kind of really stupid because they were big dogs. They're big working dogs.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, the Little Rascals. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say there's two famous dogs, the RCA dog and then the mascot for Target.
Yeah.
Which I think is the same dog.
It's not the same dog.
It's not the same dog.
No, because the dog from RCA is a Jack Russell, and the dog from Target is a
bull terrier.
A bull terrier.
Okay.
I don't know why I did that.
I just remembered a good scary Chihuahua thing.
Okay.
And you're gonna laugh at this one. How many of you remember the Chihuahua for Taco Bell?
Like Taco Bell.
and when he's trying to when they did the tie-in to that American Disaster Godzilla film, remember that? And Godzilla, and he's got a little box with the stick, and there's a couple of tacos, and he goes, "Here, lizard, lizard, lizard." That's a dog with balls. Okay, you got to give him that.
Oh my god. Well, when we're talking about Chihuahuas,
now Willa's going to go running off and having to see if she can find those commercials.
that dog died recently.
I know
those.
So
he died recently.
Yeah, we're talking about Chihuahuas. What about the George Lopez Disney movie where he's the voice of the Chihuahua?
Beverly Hills Chihuahua.
Yeah, Beverly Hills Chihuahua.
I enjoyed that movie too, but I enjoyed all the Air Buddy movies too. It was like, it's Air Bud.
Yeah, Terry, there you go.
Well, how about Bruiser from Legally Blonde? Bruiser was her Chihuahua.
Yeah, but that dog was smarter than most of the people in that film.
Truthfully, yes.
Okay.
Well, Einstein from Back to the Future.
That's the whole point, Pennyworth. Okay, is how can you make a horror movie with a Chihuahua and the dog you can easily drop kick over the house? That's the point. You got to figure out a way to make that dog scary.
Those things are freaking.
They're chew toys.
Okay, if they could make a horror movie,
they're ankle biters
about beavers that turn into zombies.
What? Wait a minute. Where did I miss this one?
It's called Zombeaver.
Wow. Okay. Apparently,
look it up.
On Amazon Prime, right?
It's on Amazon Prime
instead. Are you sure that's not a porn film with a title
like
that?
No.
No, because when it started, I'm like, Brian, what the hell are you putting on TV? Because the boys were still awake, and he's like, just watch it. And the kids are like, Mom, why are the beavers zombies? And I'm like, I don't know. And I did. I just watched. I sat on the chair and I watched it in horror. I'm like, why is this like 2 hours of my life I can't get back, but I keep on watching it.
It's actually pretty funny. But
It was hilarious. It really was. It was funny.
How dare they take a Canadian icon and make it into a zombie?
Oh man.
so we know Jerome's gonna be Googling this.
Oh, you bet I am. I am indeed. Okay.
Just look at the poster. The poster is worth it alone.
You know, I went and tried to watch Night of the Demons and I couldn't get past about the first 10 minutes. Okay.
Oh, but
Yeah,
it was so good. Once you got into it, it was so good.
Oh my God. It was I'm watching it going, dead, dead, dead. You know, it was such a cliche. But okay, so they made a zombie Deep Beaver film. Oh my God, that's okay. I got one great for you, starring a Michael Caine film. Okay, back in the 70s, they did killer bee films, and they did this one called The Swarm. That one I think is available on YouTube. You got to go find it. It's cheese. It's 1970s cheese all the way through.
Okay, well I can one up you. What about the movie with Bill Shatner about the tarantulas? I believe it was called
that was Kingdom of the Spiders, but I can one up even that one. Okay, Phase 5, which was about ants. And I'm not talking army ants, which there were plenty of army ants, African plantation and fighting the army ants. But this one, at the ending, had this bizarre 70s acidy trip showing you the future once the ants and the humans, combined and took over the world.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay. Can we get back to dogs because the bugs are kind of
It was, but Brian and I are trying to one up each other on this, You guys
are going to have to talk bugs in movies some other time. You lost me with tarantulas and Kingdom of the Spider, and I was done. Nope, we're done. Nope. If I see a spider any size bigger than the ones that should be alive, then my house is getting burned down. And I'm the one with the flamethrower.
Nicole, you and my wife would get along on that one because she's the same thing. She's got the flamethrower ready. They
should not be big. They should not be hairy. They should not be the size of a dinner plate.
How did you
about spiders, right?
Yeah.
Aren't there pretty vicious spiders down in Florida? Aren't there vicious spiders down in Florida?
Well, I think Black Widow's a little tiny spider, isn't it?
They are tiny spiders, and so are brown recluse, really. But I just don't like any of them.
We do have big spiders.
This is why you come live in the north, because the winter gets rid of the big ugly spiders. You have lots of little
they come back
ones.
In the summer. My best friend's mom.
They can't grow fast enough. If they get big.
Oh, they don't get that big.
That's right. That's why you can stomp on them. Okay. How did you do with Lord of the Rings in Sheba?
Yeah. I didn't do very well. It has 8 legs. I'm not sold on it. I feel the same way about squid and octopus too.
So 8-legged freaks and arachnophobia were not your favorite films.
And I'm gonna tell you right now, arachnophobia is why I'm an arachnophobe.
Same with my wife. Same thing.
You tried to kill the spiders and you lit one on fire and it jumped. I'm done. Like now.
Yeah, but he takes the nail gun and
I love the nail gun. That was a great idea.
Can I just say one thing about arachnophobia is that John Goodman stole that movie.
Yes,
he did.
He was the best part of that movie.
I just gotta say, John Goodman is an underrated actor.
Yeah.
All right.
Big Lebowski. I love him in the Big Lebowski.
Yes.
Set the way back.
Anyways, back to dogs.
I want you to go to the way back now. This one's going to be hard. This is a children's film. Okay, and it was from Britain. And it was called Digby, the World's Largest Dog. Okay. And it's very, very 1960s, late 1960s. Scientists in some British thing has come up with a growth formula to make plants grow really big. And so the scientist brings home this chemical to put on his roses so he will win the village contest for the roses. Well, you're pseudo-British, being Canadian. You know what they're like over there. Instead, because it looks like milk, because it's got that same consistency. Somebody puts it down for the dog, the sheepdog who drinks it. He puts it up, pours a little more on the plate. The scientist comes up, grabs it, dumps it onto the roses, and the dog begins to grow. Basically Godzilla style. And then they pour some green soda pop like stuff down the dog, and the dog shrinks back down. But that was basically that movie. Okay. And then we, of course, for dogs, we have Clifford.
Yeah.
Clifford, which was, voiced by the late, great John Ritter.
John Ritter, yeah. Mm-hmm. So
I love Clifford.
So there's
Oliver loves Clifford too.
And I think Digby, I think you might be able to find Digby. Your boys might like Digby. It's very funny film.
And speaking of Clifford, there's a brand new live action movie coming out next year.
For Clifford?
And yes, like an actual live action Clifford.
I'm not sure if that could work.
I believe the trailer is out.
Oh, I got to look that one up.
I'm super excited. But so Terry mentions Frankenweenie, which I love this movie.
The original and the newer one that they did.
Clifford the Big Red Dog. There we go.
But then we talk about dogs and horror.
We what?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we lost them. They're frozen up. Willow, you've been awfully quiet about all this.
Sorry. No, I really do like the Clifford stories. Those are really cute.
Yeah.
There was another. Oops.
Are they back?
Yeah, we're back here. Penny with Brain from Inspector Gadget.
Oh, well, Brain is the smartest one in the entire group.
Yeah.
But when we're talking like dogs, I cannot remember the name of this dog. Is Punky Brewster's dog.
I don't remember Punky Brewster's dog.
Never a fan of Punky.
You said that before. Sandy and Annie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Sandy goes all the way back to the Great Depression. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was when and it was it was Brandon the Wonder Dog was the Punky Brewster dog.
Okay.
Yeah, Sandy has a long history with Little Orphan Annie. And again, smarter than Annie sometimes.
Yeah. When we think about the dogs that always found a way to sneak around so the kid could always keep them, like in Hotel for Dogs and a bunch of other movies where the dog had to like sneak around. Mm-hmm. But when I was a kid, Wishbone was on PBS, and he would go and
have adventures
to history and have adventures into history and into like literature and stuff.
Yep.
And so he was one of my favorites.
That was a really cute show.
It was a Canadian show.
Which one was this?
Wishbone.
Never watched it.
It was
a show about a Jack Russell Terrier.
And Wishbone is still on in 2020.
Okay, so here's one. Yeah. Okay, that's changed over the years. Originally, this dog was represented as a Jack Rush. It was a terrier also, but then in the 1990s they changed him into a golden retriever, and he's from another planet, and he wears a big S on his cape.
Crypto was originally a terrier. If you go back and look at the cartoons and the drawings, and then for the 90s they turned him into a golden retriever. Okay. And here's another one. Okay, and I gotta look this one up. Hang on a second here. What was the Supergirl's horse? Oh, I don't remember.
She had a horse.
Supergirl. Oh my god. Apparently I need to read more comics.
Well, okay. Yeah, we won't get into that relationship. Comet. Okay, now let's get into the weird factor of Comet and Supergirl. Okay. There's a story where Comet gets a wish. Comet wants to be human. Comet realizes he's been turned into human. Well, horses don't wear clothes. So he takes a name Bill and whatever his name was, and he steals some clothes, and the clothes were from a thief. Okay. Over time, through the story, he develops a relationship with Supergirl, and it's implied that that relationship goes down certain paths. Police recognize the clothes. Comet, in human form, is running away and wishes back to be a horse. So you put the whole bizarro relationship into your mind, and then go have to have lots of drinks because of where that went. Okay, and this was the 1960s. Okay,
Wow.
and there's web pages that describe his relationship in that story and all that get really creepy and weird. Okay.
And this is why we stay off drugs. Kids.
So
Okay, there was also yeah. Go ahead.
Terry and Alfred, we did mention Old Yeller was like the first 3 minutes of the show. Like,
now I'm gonna cry.
It just, we both talked about how it just wrecked us, but I'm also a sap, so.
And we talked about Snoopy also because Snoopy was the name of one of the lunar modules. Okay.
And Snoopy is hugely popular and probably will never go away. And that's
Snoopy is hugely popular overseas also.
Yes.
Okay, you'd be surprised at how popular it is. I've got a friend of mine who has an original Snoopy sketch.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He's got a whole mess of other original pieces of artwork from the comic book world back in the 1960s and 70s. I have told him I'm going to either go rob his house or he has to put me in his will. You know?
Well, this is what you need to do is you need to go find some of those dogs.
Yeah, and then they can rob the house and bring you back the sketch. There you go.
Oh, no. 2 years ago, they moved to Arizona, so I don't know where their house is. But
so we only partially talked about cartoon dogs, but so we did talk about All Dogs Go to Heaven, and the other one right around that same time period that I think were very influential for us as kids was Lady and the Tramp and Fox and the Hound.
Yes.
Lady and the Tramp goes back to the 60s.
Yeah.
And you can tell that by how
because we were young. Yes. I hated those damn Siamese cats.
Everybody hated those Siamese cats, but the song was so racist.
Yes, it was.
Oh my God.
Horrible.
Yeah, Willa?
Wow, yeah.
Okay.
That's why Disney, when they did the live action for Disney Plus, they changed that scene.
Uh-huh. Okay. Let's see here.
And I do have to say that the live action Lady and the Tramp is not a bad film.
It was actually it was really good. I enjoyed it, and I don't generally like anything that's live action.
The most iconic scene is the spaghetti scene.
Mm-hmm.
And they did keep that in.
They did.
Right. Well, you have to. You can't do Lady and the Tramp without the spaghetti. You know, and the
very important.
No.
You know,
I do have to make a quick reference to Dodger from Oliver and Company, voiced by the great Billy Joel.
Really?
I loved Oliver and Company, and that is not why Oliver's name is Oliver, but well, there's multiple reasons why Oliver's name is Oliver, but that I guess could be one. I don't know. Anyways, not the point. Well, I don't even know what I was going to say now. Shit.
All right, I'm curious, Greg. What do you have against Lion King?
Well, the live action one, the live action Lady and the Tramp was far superior to the live action Lion King. I really do. It really was. My opinion, but
I mean, not saying that the newer Lion King was bad. It's just
I just feel like there's some things that you shouldn't redo, and I feel like in and of its own entities, like the Broadway show is one thing, the animated movie, the animated Disney movie is a different thing, and those two things are separate, but when you make it live action or you remake it or whatever, it becomes something entirely different, and I didn't like it as much.
One of Kara's cousins did the costume work on the Broadway one.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I've seen Simba's mask up close and personal because she got to take the original one home, and wow, the detail is amazing. Somewhere in my house, I've got detailed photos of it.
I do want to see the Broadway play at some point, just because of the beauty of it.
I did see it, but not like on Broadway.
Yeah.
They were doing like beta testing of it.
You see it at Disney?
At Walt Disney World. Before.
Okay. So we've got to talk about some of the other gorillas in the room. There's a certain ugly mouse that we have to talk about. A duck, a dog. I'm not sure if he's a dog or not on the other one. I mean, we got to talk about the whole Disney crew.
Well,
Goofy will always be my favorite character, though.
Who will?
Goofy will always be one of my favorite characters from Disney, though.
I loved in Stand By Me, they were debating whether or not Goofy was a dog or not. He
wears a hat and drives a car.
My favorite. Okay, so Mickey was fairly popular with the shorts in the 1940s, 50s, so on up until, and then in the 50s you had the Mickey Mouse Club and whatever. But then in the 90s, they came out with these shows called the Disney Afternoons. Okay, and that's where you got Goof Troop. You got DuckTales, which everybody loves. I like the new DuckTales because I'm a David Tennant fan also. Okay.
Yeah, both versions are good.
I love DuckTales. I don't even care.
I, however, am a Darkwing Duck fan.
Yes.
Okay.
Very much so.
I have an autographed photo from Jim Cummings, the voice of DW. Okay. Yes. But what's interesting is Disney's makes a lot of their cartoons with anamorphic critters instead of doing people, because they always seem to have a problem when they do people. Okay, they don't have a problem with that. Now, in the new DuckTales, there's been at least 2 references to 2 other shows during these seasons. They made a huge reference to Darkwing Duck because
isn't Darkwing Duck a TV show on?
It's a TV show, and Launchpad's got a little bobblehead in the plane of Darkwing Duck. Okay, and they were remaking the thing into a new movie, and there's a whole episode on it. Jim Cummings effectively just does it's an effective voice torch passing for the character, which is really nice. However, and this is the one you got to look for. Do you remember what was the one with the chipmunks?
Chip and Dale
Rescue Rangers. They make a reference to Rescue Rangers in an episode of DuckTales with Rescue Rangers. The girl with the big wrench and the other 2 chipmunks and all that. They actually rescue Launchpad and one of the nephews in.
Well, the other one, his name is Monterey Jack.
Don't remember that one.
He is the one that has like the accent.
It's a really bad Canadian French accent.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so we know that Goofy is used a lot. We also know that Mickey and all that. But of the big 4 or 5, who's the most used character of all time throughout the Disney films from the 70s on? You're gonna be surprised at this one.
I was gonna say Pluto.
No.
No?
Well, it would
go on.
Be either Goofy or Donald.
Baloo.
Oh.
Baloo?
He's used in Robin Hood. He's in the Jungle Book. He's in he's got his own show where he's a pilot. Tailspin. This bear is all over the place. So he's one of the most used characters of all time.
Who was the voice of Baloo? It was a very famous person too.
In which show? I gotta find that. Hang on a second here.
It was the same voice that did it in Jungle Book and Robin Hood. I'm pretty sure. And then the person that did it in Tailspin, it was a sound alike, I think.
Yeah, I'm looking here. Hang on a second here. Come
Bill
on.
Harris.
Who? Mel Harris?
Bill
Harris. Okay.
Bill Harris.
Yeah.
Where are we at? Phil Harris, yeah. And let's see here. He went until 1995. He was Little John in Robin Hood. Let's see what he's got here listing. Where's his filmography? Television. Okay, so he did not do Baloo on all of them. He only did it in the Jungle Book.
Oh, okay.
So let's see here.
Yeah, because they came after.
Yeah.
Because he was the 1967.
And Ed Gilbert was in Tailspin.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Yeah, they've done him in Jungle Book, stage adaptation, Jungle Cubs. There was a live action film for Jungle Book, Tailspin. Let's see here. He was in there. Let's see here. But they've also used the similar characters in Robin Hood. Also, if you look at Little John, it was also Baloo. I don't care what they say, you know.
Yeah.
So there's those. Disney loved using a lot of their critters. But all right, here's another one, celebrating its 80th year. Okay, think about this for a second. What critter is celebrating its 80th year?
Are we still talking Disney or outside of Disney?
No, outside of Disney.
Oh. Ooh.
80 years.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Oh, come on. You know,
is it a cartoon?
Yes, it is. It's a famous character. You're going to hate yourself on this one.
Probably.
Yes. Yes, you're right, Terry. The sailor on Bedknobs and Broomsticks.
Oh.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's the Baloo comment. But what's 80 years old? He looks fabulous for 80 years old. Terry is correct. Beat you guys.
Bugs Bunny.
Bugs Bunny.
God,
Bugs Bunny is 80 years old and only one gray hair.
Ha.
Okay, so hold on.
what you did there.
Thank you very much, Nicole.
Bugs Bunny and Batman are the same age?
Yes.
That is so crazy.
1940s, that whole 1938 to about 1941, huge creative time for some of the most popular stuff that we know. Okay. And think about this. Bugs was a series of short that were done in front of films that you would watch. Okay. All those great shorts that we know are actually just the intros to a film. Okay.
Is it just Bugs Bunny or were there other characters that were created at the same time?
There was Elmer Fudd was around at the same time, but he wasn't the Elmer Fudd you recognize today. He was a lot fatter. Daffy showed up around the same time, but I'm not sure the exact time. But
what about Porky?
Porky was the same thing because he's the one who did that. Did it. That's all, folks. Okay. Daffy was literally Daffy Duck, and there's a song where he sings that he's Daffy. It looks like rain, so please pass the ketchup. I think it's going to rain. Yes, that's an exact line from the song, Willow. Okay, he's Looney Toony. So there's that. The Roadrunner stuff didn't start until after the war. But again, we're talking, out. That's only where you would see it would be out west. So that's how they got them. There's actual Roadrunners. Personally, I love Wile E. Coyote because he's the great tunnel painter. He never gets credit for his tunnel paintings. There was only one episode where him and Bugs met each other. Wile E. Coyote, genius.
Yep.
So the Warner Brothers did a lot of them also. Okay. Now fast forward to the 90s. I'm still trying to figure out what critter the Warner kids are. That were locked up in the.
I don't think they've ever touched on that.
Yeah.
You mean the Animaniacs?
The Animaniacs are what sort of critter are they?
I feel like they may be cats, but I could be.
They travel in a pack, but they also, whatever. Okay, and then there's, of course, from the Animaniacs, since we're talking critters, my personal favorite, Pinky and the Brain.
Pinky and the Brain.
Yes.
What are we going to do tonight? Brain, same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world. Now, there's a fan theory that basically says it's actually Pinky who's the genius. and not Brain, and he's just going along with Brain to to keep him in line, because it's always Pinky who sabotages the world conquesting stuff. Okay, so I mean we got critters all over the place. I mean more than just dogs. You know.
Well, it says the running gag throughout the Animaniacs series is the question of what animals, if any, the Warners are meant to be modeled after. The series' other characters are cartoon representations of various animals, such as monkeys, birds, mice, squirrels, but the Warners are intentionally left ambiguous.
Yep, that's the whole point.
So they don't fit into anything. They're just weird.
With baloney,
which might be why I always identified really well with them.
And I'm just happy that the Animaniacs are being brought back in their own.
Rob Paulson
on Hulu, I think it is.
Well, here's my question, okay, and this is one that I've seen recently. Amazon brought back Rocky and Bullwinkle. Okay. Now the art is not the same. I mean, not even close. I really don't care for it. The same with the Sherman and Peabody movie.
Mm-hmm.
There's just something they're missing from the original. Either an innocence or a lot of nods that got past. They had to work hard to get past censors. That the new stuff just doesn't seem to have that same feel. There's always, you always feel like you're looking at something that was, they tried too hard.
That's how I feel about it. Yeah.
Sometimes you got to look at stuff, especially with Rocky and Bullwinkle, and even Animaniacs, which was surprisingly political, by the way. Animaniacs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They're things of their time. Animaniacs were definitely the 1990s. Man, they made so many references to Bill and Hillary. It was kind of ridiculous. The Rocky and Bullwinkle. So many references to the 1960s. Unless you know those references, you don't have a clue what's going on. Okay.
I mean, I was just watching the other day. Seth MacFarlane was actually brought into the TV Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And they were talking about Family Guy, which is celebrating its 20th anniversary. But like all the references that Family Guy makes to what's going on in real life.
Yeah. Somebody building a bridge in there?
Lord only knows.
And Willow, you lost the light behind you or something turned off.
Oh, no. Weird.
You got ghosts? I got fruit fly.
You have construction happening here and you have ghosts. Wonderful.
So yeah, and that's what worries me about the Animaniacs remake is I'm not sure how that's going to work because the writers were tuned into the culture at the time, and if you get that, well, we want to do Animaniacs but we don't want to be political or offend anybody, then that eliminates right there half your show.
Yeah,
because there was so much stuff that's offensive in Animaniacs, the whole hello nurse thing, and
yeah, well,
we allowed it. We allowed it because it was a wink and a nod.
Well, and I don't think in the 90s we weren't tuned into all of this stuff, and we weren't overly sensitive about some of the things that we're overly sensitive to now. It was a joke, and that's what it was. It never went further than that. And I think I'm
not disputing what you're saying, Nicole. I'm just saying is that with today's audience.
Oh, I know, because we get all riled up about dumb stuff now.
Well, I'm not disputing that. What I'm saying, though, it's not just that, though, is that there was timing. There was knowledge of what was going on, so you knew where to put the joke.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. If you don't have the same type of people writing that type of stuff, I mean, the animation's easy enough to do. You can copy the animation whatever, and granted, you're going to see some changes, but the writing comes down to telling a joke, and that's what these all are. They're big jokes. And where do you put the different elements to get the same feel? If you put,
I understand what he's saying. Like the writers might not be in tune with what was going on back then. Like they're in tune with what's going on now. So like you have a lot of people that are safe,
They're not.
And-
They're not in tune because they don't want to deal with the politics of today or the culture. You know, they don't watch certain things that they were watching back then. You know, like okay, let's say we're going to make a science fiction episode with Pinky and the Brain to take over the world, and we've done something similar back here. What worked here may not work here because of the change in the culture. But if your writers are in tune with the culture, they'll be able to work it. If they're not in tune because, well, I don't pay attention to politics, I don't pay attention to popular stuff, then your jokes are not going to work.
Yeah, they're going to fall flat.
Exactly. And you see that in a lot of remakes. We don't want to offend. We don't want to be like the old one because we want our own, spin on it. And you see that with a lot of remakes. If you look at some of the remake films of from other shows from back in the 60s, 70s, they try to make comedies, they fall flat. Okay. Yeah. But if you, with things like the Animaniacs, though, you've got a lot more leeway to play with.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about critters again, which,
So, I want to bring up this film because we were talking about Old Yeller. And if there's a movie that pulls at the heartstrings like Old Yeller that has come out in the last 10 years, A Dog's Purpose.
Never seen it.
Oh my God.
I've got one that'll make you cry just as bad as Old Yeller, and it came out before Old Yeller.
Which one?
Bambi.
Oh God.
Oh, yeah.
See, Willow's already crying.
It was.
Here, gotta wipe her tears.
That was terrible.
Willow, hold on a second. We're just going to take care of your tears for you. There you go. But yeah, I mean, come on. Bambi's mom dies right at the beginning. Well,
and also in Fox and the Hound. I think, and I know our world was a different place back then, and I think that we were. I feel like we were the last tough generation. I feel like we were the last generation that could actually get ourselves together. I feel like we understood those things at a very young age. So we were all seeing Bambi, and we were all seeing The Fox and the Hound, and we were all seeing those movies that destroyed us.
Can I just ask? I want to see if people know. Do you guys know who the big star that did one of the voices in Fox and the Hound?
Ooh, I don't even know if I know that one.
I don't remember.
My wife was here. She'd tell you because she loved that.
Well, let's just say that this person is considered, at the time was a heartthrob, and he was a Disney staple.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Corey Feldman. Oh, wow.
Yeah, but go before that. Who played
Kurt Russell?
Kurt Russell.
Oh,
Yeah.
And who played the Fox?
Mickey Rooney was Todd.
Mickey Rooney was a huge heartthrob in the 1940s with Judy Garland.
Yeah.
They made a whole mess of films together.
Mm-hmm.
She was his girlfriend. And there's some interesting films on there. Okay. But yeah, okay. But with what you were talking about, about being tough with Bambi. Remember, Bambi came out just around the beginning of the Second World War.
Yeah.
Same with Dumbo.
Oh.
If that doesn't make you cry when the Dumbo's elephant, yeah, okay. But again, I'm not sure you could make those films today.
Have we touched on ever why Disney had such a thing against mothers?
Let's see. They killed off the mothers. They had the stepmoms being evil.
Yeah.
I don't know, to be honest with you, Willow. That's a good point.
You could write a thesis on that, I bet.
Goofy raising his child without his wife.
Right.
Willow, yeah. I think you've got the entire starts of a doctoral thesis right there.
The whole thing about Goofy and Max is people are bring up where is the mom, because they never mention the mom.
Yeah. Is she dead, or did he divorce, or did they get divorced?
I don't think they've ever really touched on that. I think they may have touched on it in an episode, but I think they made a reference to her passing away. But honestly,
I'll have to go back and watch Goof Troop.
Yeah, so I'm looking at it now.
It's always one of those things like when somebody dies in those movies, like because it's always a parent, and when the parent dies, because I'm a product of that, so it was like always something like as I watch it now, I still have like flashbacks of that.
Yeah.
But
What I don't understand in Goof Troop is how is Peggy married to Pete?
Yeah, those are questions you really don't want asking.
It's opposites attract.
I'm like, Pete's so mean.
Well, they also had lots of that. I mean, if you look at Fred and Wilma, I mean, how did that marriage ever work? But
well, wasn't that based on the Honeymooners?
Yes.
Well, that's
again,
Fred was smart and
how the heck?
Wilma was smart and Fred was an idiot.
Yeah. So anyway, but I mean, but my question is why does Disney always use animals? Is it that their animators can't draw people? Is it that they have a problem with people? I mean, Robin Hood.
I think Walt Disney did answer this. I think because he was asked this many times. It's something
Really?
about like the attraction to animals over people. I think that's why.
I think in a lot of cases, when you use an animal or when you use something that's not, when essentially, oh dear.
Oh my god!
I like Goofy. Leave him alone.
That's not fair.
Wait a minute. I have a question though. In Goof Troop, what's Goofy's job?
I don't know. He always goes to work, but we never actually see what he does.
That's my point. With him being so klutzy in the way he is, what sort of employment is he keeping? He's always walking out with a briefcase, which means he's a white-collar worker. So what sort of craziness is he doing?
Lord only knows. Really. It cracks me up though, because like we always used to have these discussions about like what was he, a dog or whatever?
He's a dog.
Like he's a dog. But at the same time, why is Goofy more human than Pluto?
I've got an answer for that. Mad scientist genetic manipulation.
Oh, I like it. I think that would work.
All right, Jerome, get on the interwebs, and that's your theory. You need to put that out there.
Some animals just become more self-aware.
That's true. I like that. So what you're telling me, Willow, is that Goofy was at some Zen Buddhist temple meditating and just became aware. I like that one too. Goofy's an aware dog.
I think maybe Pluto was just like, it's easier being a dog.
And you can't argue with Pluto's logic on that one, You
really can't. I mean, like, you have a lifelong friend in Mickey, things aren't so bad,
he's got a decent doghouse. He gets 3 squids. He doesn't really have to do much. I mean, he even gets to watch the TV when he wants, when Mickey's at work.
Yeah, that's not a bad gig, really.
So Mickey's a trophy wife. So Pluto's a trophy wife.
So I'm still kind of stuck on that Jerome hasn't seen A Dog's Purpose.
Yeah, I don't know.
Do you want to explain it without ruining it?
I'll look it up.
Essentially, A Dog's Purpose is that they have a reason for being there, and they're kind of linked to the person that they first have. So he finally realizes there's a link between the new dog that's coming into his life and the dog that left when he was younger.
Okay.
And so there's all those things that he came back for a reason, and that there's a dog's purpose really is to be there for its owner.
Yeah, he comes back as different dogs,
but he's always been really close to him. It was just that they both realized that maybe they met in another time. Like, so the dog could remember when he was
a child,
when that owner was a child, and he was just a different dog at that point. So it's kind of like the reincarnation of the dog.
And the voice of the dog is Josh Gad.
Okay.
And then the kid that grows up is
Randy.
Okay. Anyway, I'll go look it up.
Dennis Quaid.
Yeah. There was apparently a sequel called The Dog's Journey too.
Yes, and that's a good one. And that picks up right after.
Okay.
Right.
I'm just letting you know that if you do cry when anything happens to a dog, even if they're gonna die, like in Marley and Me, I was distraught and I was ruined and I was wrecked, and I went to work the next day looking like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man because my eyes were swollen. But I think like we underestimate how important dogs are to us until we can put ourselves in a situation like that.
Right.
Hey, listen,
Like Marley and me, my God, like
you don't. I had a real life experience. I had a real life experience. The night before my 16th birthday, my beloved Irish setter got out of the road and got killed on the road right in front of my house. Okay, I mean, destroyed me. You know, hit by a car. Guy just kept driving. You know, and think about that. The night before your 16th birthday,
man.
Okay, yeah. To this day,
what was your dog's name?
You're gonna laugh. We named him Daggett.
I love it.
Okay. So we had Daggett. The replacement Dag was Daggett 2 because he was replacing it. Then with the black lab we had, which was the next one, my mother named her. She just looked at it and went Toots. My mother called the dog Toots, and we were like, "Oh, I guess we know what the dog's name is." So, but yeah, I mean, dogs. I mean, I've had dogs, since I was about 8. And when you got to put down a dog and dogs get sick a lot. Let's not kid ourselves because of the breeding problem. Dogs get sick a lot, and you got to put them down. And when you do, it destroys you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because dogs are pack animals. That's why they work so well with people, more so than cats. People talk about their cats and everything else, but let's be honest. Cats are lone hunters. Okay, they're going to push stuff off your table. They're going to look at you when you go, "Come over here, I need a cuddle." They're going to like, "Yeah, F you," and they'll go off somewhere else, Dogs are, they're there when they're there, that comfort critter. When you're having a bad time, you go have a breakup. Who snuggles with you and keeps you, try to, make you happy? It's the dog. It's not the cat.
Yeah.
And we won't even talk about the fish and the birds. Okay. You can't snuggle with a goldfish. I'm sorry, you just can't snuggle with a goldfish. But the dogs are there. I mean, they're that comfort, that emotional comfort, so more so than anything else. Now, cats have their own unique problems too, But I mean, my ex-wife had a cat that, I think she chose the cat over me. But okay, so speaking of cats, there were Disney liked to do live action movie with cats.
That darn cat.
That darn cat, which they remade. Okay.
Yeah. With Christina Ricci, right?
I think so. But here's another one. Okay, they had the Cat from Outer Space.
Yeah.
But my favorite, which got me crying every time, and I'm just now admitting that I cried because tough boys not supposed to, is The 3 Lives of Thumbelina.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
The cat dies twice and comes back, and if you're not crying every time that cat dies, then check your pulse because you're not alive. It's just like when Old Yeller dies. If you're not crying, check it because you're a zombie.
Yeah.
Well, and Sounder, Shiloh, and where the red fern grows.
Yes.
Every single time, and I know what's going to happen.
But consider, consider this though. Okay, the modern action film. Okay, the hero goes around and blows up the bad guys left and right. Right? He sees a dog, the vicious attack dog. What does he do? Nothing. He doesn't kill it because if he kills it, you're in tears and you're pissed off. You're more angry at the death of the critters than you are of the humans. Yeah. Okay? Think about that one for a moment.
Yeah.
Okay? The vicious Doberman Pinscher, what does he do? He either tranquilizes them or gives them meat. The vicious guards that are coming at him, what does he do? He blows them away instead of trying to, bribe them or something,
Yeah.
Of course, if you threw them, if you threw the guards steak, I don't think that would work. Depending upon the guards, it might, though, But
Speaking of dogs, my dog is under the table now, licking my foot.
I was going to say, your dog's under the table. How much booze has he had?
No, it doesn't take anything for him to hide under the table. He likes under the table.
Dog, and the funny thing is actually I've read somewhere is dogs are easier to train than like cats or any other animal. so they'll do stuff.
Cats can be trained, though.
You know, I've heard that. Never actually seen it, but I've heard that.
Yeah.
My husband had Simba trained for a while there, where he'd come home and Simba would be sitting in a spot, and as soon as Joe comes into the room, Simba would move to the other couch.
I like that. That cat knows his place.
You know, I'm surprised we didn't talk about this animated film, and it's
one?
all about dogs.
Which
Well,
one?
101 Dalmatians.
Ah,
Yep.
yeah, but you know
Congo
the
and
funny thing.
Perdita.
The funny thing about that is what, first off, they made a live action version of it, which wasn't as much fun as the animated version.
Yeah.
But they nailed Cruella.
I disagree. I think while Glenn Close was close, I think the animated version was so much better. Okay.
It was a lot crazier. Like, I think that like the look in her eye was a lot more genuine of what you would consider Cruella, because you'd have to really be crazy to want to hurt a dog.
You couldn't bring that animated version like exactly into real life. It just wouldn't work. So what Glenn Close did.
But the animated versions was a 1960s fashion victim. If you look at her from a 1960s point of view, she's she's over the top. She's flamboyant. Okay, and then you
like a trash heap, Judy Garland, or
pretty much.
Liza Minnelli. You know,
pretty
like
much, exactly, and that's pretty much how you can see them. You can see those references that you're talking about. I mean, and you couldn't do that in the 90s with Glenn Close. Okay. So again, we were talking about the remake, about the flaws of the remakes versus the strengths of the originals. But I'm sorry, I love the fact that you couldn't make a song about Cruella de Vil in the live action but they could have done something instead of a video game, because the song Cruella de Vil is just iconic. My daughter sings that song. Okay, Nicole's already started singing it.
They're actually doing a movie about Cruella with Emma Stone, and I heard that it's going to be really, really good. Like, Emma Stone is getting really into the character.
Yeah.
I love Emma Stone, though. So
yeah, see Pennyworth agrees with me. But here's the thing about, I'll tell you, as a kid, when I saw that movie, 101 Dalmatians, my folks thought, oh, it's about dogs. Love it. I had nightmares about Cruella. Okay, but what was really cool about that movie also was that was the first time I'd ever seen somebody, take a branch and sweep away tire tracks, and because that's what the dogs did to get away. There was a lot of real strong things in that animated film. I mean, you had the Dog Network, where they were howling to communicate. You had the realization of the adoption of all these other dogs that, and they talk about adoption in a way that, you went through this horrible event with us. So now you're my brothers and sisters. And that was almost like a military war thing. We're related not by blood, but by a horrible event, and where we all almost died. Because the henchmen were supposed to kill those dogs the night they were escaping. And how were they going to kill them? They weren't going to euthanize them. They were going to bash their heads in.
Yeah.
And if that didn't get the thought of your puppy, not someone else's, but your puppy that got stolen, going to get their heads bashed in, that didn't give you nightmares after watching that film. Again, recheck your pulse.
Yeah.
Because that all, again, that movie was very scary, but it was also a lot of fun. I mean, it was exactly what that movie is supposed to do. It covered a lot of emotions on that film with those dogs.
And that's the thing about every Disney movie, not just their animated stuff, but everything Disney releases, there's always some kind of like message in there that they're trying to.
There's a joy in watching most Disney movies as an adult too. Like,
I'm going to disagree with you.
Well, you might, but like as an adult, like when you watch certain things, like I very much enjoyed Frozen, but I enjoyed Frozen for a much different reason. Like the boys liked the fact that they could sing the song, and then there was Olaf, and it was comedy relief. But I enjoyed Frozen because I understood what it was like to be the outsider.
Nicole, it is obvious to me you do not have a 7-year-old daughter.
I do not.
Okay. I have a 7-year-old daughter, and Frozen is practically on a loop around here. Okay.
Oh,
I can see how I would love it less. I mean, I
But
understand.
I understand what you're saying. You look at films and you look for something different than what.
Well, and I think every time like when we rewatch something, like when we love something as a child and then we rewatch it, there's some like little thing that
Mhm.
still ties you into that love of the character when
Oh,
you
and,
were
and, that, and,
five
and that's pure emotion.
versus now. And I think that that's why when I watch anything, I kind of have a connection with the characters. The same when I read books. It's like if I don't connect with the characters and I don't feel strongly about what's being told, then I don't really care about the show. It
Right.
becomes very easy to throw it away and say, well, that's not worth my time.
Right. It's interesting that you look at that. But I mean, you look at the Disney films. Okay, the Disney films with all their animals, as you said, there's a stronger emotion because kids develop really strong relationships to animals. Okay, more so than adults. Adults, yes, we love our dogs, we love our cats, we love what other critter that we have in the house, but we don't have that same strong emotion with them, which is why they work really well in kids' films. Okay, and why we're talking about them today, and we're kind of going off the rails every so often about things. But those animals are really strong when we're kids. When you're 7 or 8 years old and you come home because the bully was mean to you, who gives you the love and support?
Right.
Unconditionally, not your parents. Your parents will love you for no matter what, but you're in your room crying and in comes the dog or the cat and gives you that cuddle and the world is all right again.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and or you're having an emotional relationship problem in your teenage years. Who do you talk to? You don't talk to your mom and your dad. They don't understand. You can't talk to your siblings because either the older ones are like going, everything will be okay, and they're condescending, and the littler ones don't understand, sex.
Right.
But who can you talk to? You can talk to the critter.
Well,
And the
there's always
critter,
that safety of the critter not talking to anybody else. Like
Well,
your
there's
secret
that
is
too.
always safe with them. So like all of the ones where the kid always gets in trouble, like when the
Yeah.
kid gets in trouble and and then the dog either saw it or was part of it, and that's how they keep your secret is safe with them. Like you don't have
Yeah.
to worry about being judged. You don't have to worry about being told on. There's like that unwritten like law that
Yeah.
says that the dog will
Yeah.
always keep your secret or the cat will always keep your secret.
Yeah, and that's the strength of those. But you look at those films, and then you look at them as a kid, and you go, I can relate to what's going on here because of me and my own relationship. You're not saying that subconsciously, emotionally, you're doing that because you haven't quite figured out the words to that. But when you go back and watch it as an adult, okay, and you go, okay, I still feel some of the emotion, but I can't watch it logically anymore because
Yeah.
my logic is on. I need to come back a minute, guys. I'll be right back.
Yeah, no
Okay.
worries.
Yeah, like going back though, like as an adult and watching some things, you do see it
There's-
differently.
Yeah.
And then you take things differently. Like you can still be like, oh, that means something different to me now than it did
Mhm.
when I was young.
Well, and I always think about this when we talk about princess movies. Like we talk about our girls being, warriors instead of princesses that need saving. But if you really think about it, like Frozen was the first one that changed that like dynamic.
Yeah.
And so, you didn't have the prince to come sweep you off your feet. You had your sister. And I think that was a much different dynamic.
And then Moana came.
And then, Moana pretty much saved herself. I mean, I think that is like an understanding of the way times have changed. But I think even when we watch Cinderella or we watch Sleeping Beauty or we watch any of that, there was always something that saved us from some other trauma in our lives. So we figured that we could fix it if we just found this other thing. And I'm not saying that was a bad, like, I think we were maybe spoiled a little bit by that, but we also learned that the only person who can ever really help us is ourselves. you know, that we have to be able to take care of ourselves instead of waiting for somebody to, you know, swoop in and take care of us. But I mean, our dogs always did. Our dogs always take care of us.
So, yeah,
As
it's
Ron and Lassie, because she knew he was in the well.
you know, I'm at some point going, you know, Lassie probably went, damn, Timmy's in the well again. Yeah, it's time to get a new Timmy. Yeah. Go get help, Lassie. Oh, no way. This is the 5th time you've been in the same well. I ain't coming back. You know?
Like, even I learned the first time. Like, come on.
Yeah. That was the 1950s, and that there was a huge amount of collies when Lassie was on. And the funny thing about collies, and most people, this is the problem, is that they're not a lot of dog underneath that hair. Yeah. All that hair. And when they shed, oh my God. You know, it's like, get out the knitting needles, because you're gonna make a sweater with all that fur.
Did you like the '94 Lassie movie that came out?
I didn't even watch it. I didn't even know they made one. I remember they did Lassie. We made reference to it, I think, in our show last week, or Lassie at one point. But I never really saw the remakes from the 1990s. I know they did a remake in the 70s with Lassie, but it wasn't the same thing. If you look at
they did a lot of TV movies, but this was an actual movie released in theaters in 1994. It was just called Lassie.
Nope, would not have seen it for a variety of reasons. Mainly having to do with the beginning of my first marriage. You know.
Okay, so speaking of other dog movies that probably would send you to the tissue capital of the world was My Dog Skip.
Okay.
So My Dog Skip was about a little boy named Willie and his dog Skip.
I figured the dog's name was Skip.
Well, of course, but they were totally inseparable, and they did everything together. And he goes away to college, and Skip is left, you know, to wait for him to come back.
Oh,
and you know, like you always kind of see that, like, the dogs never live as long as we want them to, but sometimes they live in those time periods when we don't necessarily realize that they still are important parts of our lives, and that we kind of leave them alone.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Having done that, yeah. And the problem though is that those dogs, you know, when you leave them alone for a while, they will forget who you are. Okay, I've had that happen personally. You know, but I mean, you know, it takes a day or so, and then they remember who you were, or they've rehook up with you.
Well, there's those stories, the real life stories of, like, when the owner passes away, and the dog is, like, the main one that I see a lot is the dog is there at the cemetery.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, laying down on the grave and dies. There, yeah. There's that whole, you know, can't get away from your dog.
Well, there was the Hachi, the dog.
Yeah, that they made into a movie with Richard Gere, but it was a book.
And so Hachi would go back to the place where he where he was killed, and wait for him every day. And so, like, you know, our dogs remember the social emotional things for us, but they don't know, they don't understand the other things, because they don't have the capacity for that. But, you know, I always think I'm always kind of a sucker for movies like that, and then I end up crying. But, like, you know, you almost hope that if you were to die before your dog, because so often we're the ones putting our dogs down or laying our dogs to rest, that they would remember us, and we would be just as important to them as they were to us.
I found this out. The house that you see behind me, I didn't buy. I inherited it. Okay. It's actually not even our family. It was the neighbor's house. We were friends with the neighbors for about 20, 25 years. They had no family themselves, and the husband died, and then about 6 months later, the wife died. And then in the will, it said basically we had to put down the dogs as part of the inheritance and everything else. And when I was at the vets helping to do this, I found out talking to them is that a lot of people have this in the wills, is that the dogs have to be put down with them.
Oh.
You know, I die, my dog has to go at the same time. I can't understand why that is. I mean, my thing would be find a home, don't, or basically you adopt them and you don't, if you don't get the house type of thing, which I would have been fine with. But yeah, a lot of people have in their wills that the dog has to go down with them.
Wow.
You know, it's surprising. Yeah.
I don't think I could do that with my animals.
Dingo,
yeah, but, you know.
Dingo's gonna crawl into the coffin with me if he's still here. He's just gonna crawl into the coffin with me, or he's gonna eat me. One or the other.
Well, come on, they did that in the X-Files, wasn't it? Where the salesman or somebody dies and the dog eats, and they make reference to that in Superman Returns.
Yeah.
Where there's two dogs, the owner dies, and they come back and they go, "Wasn't there two dogs here?" Okay. But yeah.
And Gerald's Game too.
Yeah. Oh God, Gerald's Game. That's that. I'm good. I don't need to have a repeat of that one.
No.
You know the whole idea.
Well, there we go with Stephen King again. So
yeah, again, I think he's doing this for therapy.
Probably.
Well, he did say that a lot of the books he wrote, he did a lot of the white stuff. So,
Neil Gaiman told me some of the stuff he wrote for Sandman was to help him with his therapy also. So, yeah, horror writers write a lot of stuff as therapy. That's why when you meet them, they're surprisingly well-adjusted people. Okay.
That's why you never piss off a writer.
You know, Dave always says, "Don't piss me off, or I'll put you in my next book."
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if you look at, animals can go from horror to the most beloved things in the world and anywhere in between, you know?
Yeah.
And we put all sorts of emotions into them, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I got to give Pixar credit. They made a fish interesting, you know?
Yeah.
This is true.
I mean, what before Pixar, what was the most famous fish there was?
Flipper. Well, he's not. Oh, Jaws.
More famous than
Really?
Flipper. Yeah. Come on. Everybody knows. Everybody knows that
Flipper's
damn
not a
Jaws,
fish.
that shark.
Goldie
Oh,
and
God.
the Tom and Jerry cartoons, the fish.
Well, did Garfield have a fish?
But did not have the impact that Flipper or
No.
the shark and Jaws had. Come on, we're not making dolphin films anymore. We're making Sharknado and other shark films.
Yeah.
Okay, you're not hearing Porpoise NATO or Dolphinado or whatever. You're hearing Sharknado.
Although technically, shark or dolphins can be just as
Well, this
unruly.
is funny because then
know
we're
that.
gonna find out tomorrow. There's a dolphin horror movie coming out.
I got one for you. I've got a
Okay,
dolphin.
but it's like seeing Robin Williams as a serial killer. Like that's you're not
creepy.
supposed to see those. Like you're not supposed to see Robin Williams in 1 hour photo as
Yeah, I know.
as a serial killer. Seeing a dolphin as a killer that would ruin lives.
Already did 1970s. A movie with George C. Scott called Day of the Dolphin.
Oh Lord.
Okay. They
Were they
trained
zombie dolphins?
no, the dolphins were trained to put lipid mines on the president of the United States yacht.
Oh my God.
Huh.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, you got to go watch that movie. Basically, it does not have a happy ending at all. No. Even the innocent humans at the end, it's not a happy film.
Oh.
Okay, and open your heart to scratch your. All right, Pennyworth's got a sick sense of humor.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, just about every animal you can think of, they've done something with, for movies or TV shows, or even literature of some sort. I just read about velociraptors. They talked about these raptors that were basically migrating This is a book from the 1990s that they based the raptors from Jurassic Parks off of. I think it's like Raptor Red or something like that. And it was interesting. I mean, come on, we've made dinosaur films. You know, what is it? The Land Before Time. How many of those damn films are there? You know,
Yeah.
Way too many.
Thank you, Willow. Thank you. You know,
I was good with the first 3. After the 11th one, I think I was a little done.
yeah. At this point, after about the second one, I'm kind of going. Anybody know when that meteor is due? You know?
Well, I don't know. For some reason, Disney around that time just wanted to bring out like all these dumb sequels to their films. Just suddenly, just
And it
like,
wasn't-
okay, let's do this. And it's like, why?
Well, the
And
thing
it
is,
wasn't
Land
just
Before
Disney
Time
that did
wasn't
that too.
Bluthville.
It wasn't just Disney, because I'll tell you the reason why they did that, Willow. Okay, that was the time VHS had come out, and they were looking for stuff to put on the shelves that they could rent and bring in totes loads of money. Okay, look, and I talked to a guy who owned a video store near my house back in the 80s. When you went to the VHS store, the Blockbuster or the local independent one, and you paid what, $2-3 for a rental, right, for a night. Okay, that guy paid $85 for that VHS tape.
Yeah.
Okay, so
VHS was expensive. People talk about DVDs and Blu-rays being like $30. It's like I remember my mom. She wanted the Elvis movie on VHS with Kurt Russell. She paid like $80 for it.
Right.
Wow.
So the guy in the VHS store has got to get between 40 to 80 rentals of some film. Okay. So what am I going to put on the shelves? I'm going to put a stuff that's going to rent. And what was a lot of people doing? Well, they would get all those Land Before Times. They would rent like 5 or 6 of them for a Saturday or a Sunday or school vacation.
Mm-hmm.
They pop them in and just hit replay, rewind. You get the rewinder there. You put the next one in, and you got the babysitter for the kids. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's how that was done. Which, ironically, VHS manufacturing distribution costs were somewhere about $20 at most. So they were making huge profits off of those VHS tapes, more so than DVD nowadays.
Yeah. I'm wondering why they made so many Land Before Times, but they didn't make so many of like the Fievel movies, because they only made 2 of those.
Land Before Time was owned exclusively by the studio. It was an original story.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't have to pay royalties. It was an in-house written thing. So they could make a gazillion of them, and they knew that people would rent them or buy them for their kids for school vacation, and they'd make a boatload of money. You don't keep making Land Before Time films unless they make money.
Well, the Land Before Time films and the American Tail films were both Universal, and they were both Don Bluth animation.
Yeah, but if I remember right, American's Tales was based off of a book.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
and so now you've got to deal with copyright ownership of who owns and what is the deal about the movie rights to that book and to the character.
Right.
Yeah.
And royalties.
After the second or third film, they may have lost the rights.
Yeah, and then the same thing with The Secret of Nim, which was also a Don Bluth animation.
There was only one of those, wasn't there?
They did make a sequel.
Did they?
But like years later.
It wasn't any good.
But again, you're talking about, I mean, look at Mary Poppins. Okay. Dynamite film, won Oscars, praise. The writer, she hated it. And she put in her will never to have an American star in any of her plays about her characters or anything else. Yeah, she was nuts. Really nuts. Okay, go read the Wikipedia article on her. She was nuts. Okay.
Funny. Good to know.
Oh, yeah.
I saw Saving Mr. Banks. What did you guys think of that film?
Haven't seen it. I don't want to destroy Mary Poppins in my head. You know? My daughter loves Mary Poppins. She sings she sang for her class, she sang Spoonful of Sugar.
Oh, cute.
Yeah. I mean, I got it on video somewhere on this here I could show you, but
the best person in that film is Colin Farrell, and it's hard to upstage Tom Hanks, but he did. Hey, I'll
have to watch it, but I
don't rest on Colin Farrell. The dude is a super underrated actor. He is
I'm not laughing.
really good.
No, I'm just trying to visualize Colin Farrell upstaging Tom Hanks. That's why I'm laughing, because like you said, that's hard to do. You know?
I love Colin Farrell.
Ironically, I liked Colin Farrell as Deadshot in the Daredevil film, but that's another subject for, but so I mean, you look at these animal films, and okay, so like The Incredible Journey was based off of a book, okay, and that was that movie was huge, okay, and how long did it take them to make a sequel? Well, somebody had to get the rights again.
15 years almost. Yeah. 20 years.
No, longer than that.
Was it longer than that?
Because The Incredible Journey came out.
because it was in black and white, right?
No, it was in color. It came out in the 60s.
Yeah,
I've seen them and I've read the book, so now I can't really remember.
But they made the remake in '93, so that was like
with The Incredible Journey.
Yeah.
So 30 years.
Let's talk about this one. That's I think has a cult following. Milo Notice.
Yes,
I love Milo Notice.
And who was the voice? Super popular British actor. He played Arthur. Dudley Moore.
Yes.
Okay. Let's see, Milo and Otis. There
1986.
Yep. Cara, my wife just walked in. She loves that film.
Yeah.
So Dudley Moore narrated it.
We have little child showing up. Stop that. Wait a minute.
And lots of names that are associated with that I cannot even begin to say.
Yes.
Because they're Japanese.
She got the lilac pink. Cara got her new phone. Lavender.
Nice phone.
There we go.
Okay, Dingo, can you stop licking my foot?
Are you sure we're not doing some sort of porn thing with a phrase like that? Yeah,
I don't have a foot. Yeah, I have a foot fetish, but he clearly does, because when I take my feet out of shoes, he comes and licks my feet. He will lick between my toes, and I'm like, get off my feet. This is gross.
They pay $19.99 for things like this.
What?
So before we go off the air here, is there a certain
you want to come say hi?
Critter film or cartoon that just pick one that you would recommend someone if they have not watched this? What would it be? We'll start with you, Willow.
I don't know. Okay, I actually enjoyed the movie Cats and Dogs.
Oh yes,
That was fun.
Dogs rock.
It was cute. It was a really cute movie.
Come on, dogs is
Cats rule and dogs rule.
Cats do not.
All right.
Rule.
So Willow's recommending Cats and Dogs. What about you, Jerome?
All right. See, this is the problem because I go back so far. I have all these things, but I have to go with an animated critter film. Okay. And this one will bring tears to everyone's eyes. I got to recommend Charlotte's Web.
Charlotte's Web.
And not just the movie. You got to read the book also.
Yes.
You got to read the book and watch the movie together, because the two of them, they did such a good job on that movie, tied into the book with E.B. White did, that, they complement each other very well. And Charlotte's Web, boys can watch that too, because there's some really cool boy stuff in there too. It's not just girls, book.
I read it when Bright turned 7. We read it together, and he said, "Mom, I love this story because it's all about friendship."
It's about growing up, because the pig has to realize that people die and stuff like that. I mean, there's a lot of hard adult stuff that's in there, but it's also love.
It also does show our connection with animals on how she wanted to save him.
Right.
He was going.
Well, he was the run of the litter, and her dad was gonna to kill him because he wasn't gonna amount to anything.
I think Charlotte herself was the runt of the spiders because of the way they connected so well.
Mhm.
It's almost like the two of them could identify with each other. But Charlotte's Web was such a powerful. I mean, I'll be honest, when I read the book and then I heard they were going to do this animated thing, I was horrified. I'm thinking, oh God, they're going to screw it up. And then I saw it and I was like, this is really good.
Can I say the
I
live
like-
action was
I
very good
liked the
too?
animated one, but I thought the live action one
I've
with
never seen the
Dakota
live action.
Fanning.
Yeah, I've never seen the live action.
Julia Roberts is the voice of Charlotte, and I swear that was probably the best.
The best time role she's done.
I think that it
Her
was
voice, her voice was really soothing.
I think that it belonged, like her voice belonged to Charlotte at that point.
And
like
then Reba McEntire played the mom.
Yeah, and Dakota Fanning was Fern, and I think that
wasn't the pig from Babe in the Wilbur?
No, I think that pig had died already.
Yeah, okay. I think that though the implication was, it's supposed to be.
Whatever, but I don't think so. But I think there's a lot of themes in that movie that I think carry over into teaching kids about kindness and finding what's good in you.
Differences.
Our differences make us, and everybody I think the whole farmyard was representative of people that you meet in your life. Like you have the people that are going to cheer you on, and you have the naysayers that are always going to be like, well, you can't do this, you can't do that.
Yeah.
And so once it does happen, then you've proved them all wrong. But I think it was a change. I read it when I was, probably 8. And so like, it was a life-changing book for me. It was the first chapter book I ever read for myself. It was a book that I'd read over and over again. And it's a book I shared with my son. So it was important.
Okay.
Yeah.
So from the original animated one, that was 1973. Okay. Mm-hmm. Henry Gibson played Wilbur the pig. Now Henry Gibson is famous from Laugh-In, but people, you might know him as the Illinois Nazi from Blues Brothers.
Yes.
Okay. Charlotte was done by Debbie Reynolds, Carrie Fisher's mom, and Paul Lynn was the rat, and Agnes Moorehead was Goose. Okay. Now, if you don't know who Agnes Moorehead she was the crazy aunt in Bewitched, and Paul Lynn was also in Bewitched, but he was also famous for his being in Hollywood Squares.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now let's see here. You said there was a live action one. It's
2006.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see here. Let me get to who there was. So we had Dakota Fanning. Let's see here. The voices. Dominic K. Smith. Julia Roberts as Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
Steve Buscemi as the rat.
Templeton.
Yep.
John Cleese was the sheep.
Yeah.
Oprah Winfrey was the goose. The gander was Cedric the Entertainer.
Mm-hmm.
Kathy Bates was the cow. Reba McEntire was Betsy the cow. Robert Redford was Ike the horse. Wow, they had some really big names in here. Sam Shepard was the narrator. Let's see here. Dakota Fanning for the people. Elsie Davis. And they had some big names in this. Yeah. I still say the animated one was better.
Yeah.
Okay? I felt like there was more power than the live action. But anyway, that's the answer to your question of which critter film do I recommend?
So it's your turn now.
Well, this is really hard because there were so many.
Yes.
But probably well, if I'm thinking like my childhood, like as a kid, like it would have been The Incredible Journey. So like hands down, The Incredible Journey. As an adult, I think my favorite animal movie now is Racing in the Rain. And
the art of racing in the rain.
The art of racing in the rain. And that movie destroyed me. Like I literally, Brian's like, this won't make you cry. It'll be fine. I watched the previews and I was like, yeah, I'll be fine. Nope. I was 5 minutes into the movie.
Jerome, no, seriously, it is a good movie.
5 minutes into the movie, I'm like a freaking wreck because the dog narrates the movie.
Okay.
And so he is talking about how important Milo's character was to him, and how important it was to. And he tells the story of Milo and his family. So he tells the story about him being a race car driver and going these places, and when his wife got cancer, and you know, all of those things. And so he's telling the story. It was
the dog's name is Enzo.
The dog's name is Enzo.
Based off of, because he's a race car driver, so he
Enzo.
likes Ferrari, so he calls him Enzo.
And it really destroyed me. But there was so much more to the movie. Like, it was the dog explaining how important those people were to him, and how he couldn't, like, from his point of view, and how he didn't understand why they felt or did the things they were doing.
Yeah.
Like, so it was.
I want to say it was a 20. I want to say it's a 2019 film. It's really good.
Okay.
Sadly, I will never watch it again.
I'll hook you up. I'll tell you after we go off air how you can watch it. It was
such a good movie. And like I said, there are so many of them, but I think that one was probably recently the most. The one that got me the most, I think.
Yeah.
Well, of course, there's so many. Look how many we've talked about in the show today.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we didn't even talk about Toto. Like we even touch on some of those.
Where Toto's concerned, I'm with the witch. Okay.
And your little dog too.
Or was it the school teacher that took the,
So if I was gonna recommend something, this one's a bit newer, and it's also based on a book written by the same person that did A Dog's Purpose. And the movie totally darn it. Let me look at this.
You can't. You got to look it up with mine because he killed your phone.
But
it's why I had to go get a new one.
It's got Ashley Judd is in it.
Okay.
She the dog's name is Bella.
Isn't that the name of the girl from the Sparkly Vampire series, Bella?
Yeah.
There's strike one against that dog.
Poor dog.
I'll look up the author here.
Okay, so while
what is the name
you
of
are
the
looking this up, how do you guys
feel
about...
A Dog's Way Home?
Okay.
A Dog's Way Home.
All right, what were you saying, Willow?
How do you guys feel about them remaking Witches? Speaking of critters.
Witches?
Speaking of critters.
You know what? I'm actually looking forward to that movie. It's got Anne Hathaway in it.
I don't know. I like the original. Angelica Houston did a really good job.
I really like the original. But
did you guys even read the book?
But for me,
I don't even know what she's talking about, so I'm going to have to bail on this conversation.
Oops.
So The Witches is a Roald Dahl book.
Okay.
It was a film in the 80s.
It was a film in the 80s, and it starred Angelica Houston as the high priestess witch. I think she was phenomenal because you don't get that kind of look from just anybody. And Angelica Houston has a very specific look.
I think they did a good job on the makeup as well.
But I've also, as long as they go easy on the CG, I don't want to see a CGI witch. I want to see practical application still manifest in this movie, because I think, and I very truly believe that Anne Hathaway can do it. They're going to have to make her pretty damn ugly.
Yeah, the witches want to turn all the children into mice.
Yes.
Well, and then they want to
eat them.
And then eat them.
Well, most parents feel that way about kids.
So have you never seen the original Witches movie?
I didn't even know this thing existed until Willa just mentioned it.
Huh.
Yeah, it's got Mr. Bean. Rowan Atkinson is in it.
Oh wow, I'm a huge Rowan Atkins fan.
So I'm pensive at best.
Yeah.
Like I'm hoping that it'll be good, but I'm very worried that it'll fall into the same category as a lot of the other things from our childhood that they've remade.
Yeah, it was supposed to come out in theaters, but COVID ruined that. So it's going straight to HBO Max, and it will debut on like October 20 something.
Yeah. You got me on that one, guys.
Yeah. But we'll talk about that on our Halloween special on October 31st.
Absolutely.
Along with Hocus Pocus.
Hocus Pocus, the greatest Halloween movie ever.
Yeah, so since I brought that up, October 31st will be our Halloween special, which will be pretty much everything about the month of October. Everything, it's Nicole's favorite month.
I love October.
She loves Halloween.
The 28th is my birthday.
This is the 27th.
Great.
So
the only thing that's sad is that I wasn't born in October.
Yeah.
But trust me, it's
on that episode, we're going to talk about just everything Halloween related. So horror movies, paranormal stuff, just Halloween in general. Trick or treating, and
we love
and all that stuff. So
I love Halloween. No, you are not going to kill mine too. Sorry.
Yeah.
All right.
But yep.
The 24th is
next week we talk cruiserweights.
Yeah, next week is cruiserweights. The 17th is our indie special with all of our indie artist friends. We're gonna promote and pay homage to.
And then on the 24th is wrestling factions.
Oh yeah, factions. And then the 31st is our Halloween special.
Yeah. So those are the next few episodes.
What are you doing?
So I think it's time to ring the bell. Until next week.
Ding, ding.
So, have a good night, guys.